Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menasce. On today's show, we're talking about using every single event that happens in your business as an opportunity to create a learning culture, a culture of continuous improvement. I'm going to focus on a few weather events that took place on a single property over the span of the past few months. Back in May, we had a weather event where nearly 8 inches of rain fell in an hour. This was in Lake Charles, Louisiana. The community experienced local flooding, but our properties were largely unaffected, except in those cases where the driving rain caused a little bit of water intrusion at the doorway of one of the buildings. And we could have mopped things up and hoped we don't get another rain like that again. But instead, we called the general contractor and the engineer, and after investigation it became clear that the drainage swales that form part of the drainage design had not been cut properly. It was also clear that the rain gutters were undersized. We had local pooling of water on the site next to one of the doors. At least this was a partial reason for the minor flooding. So we made a decision to fix the missing drainage swales and improve the number of drain downspouts and hope that would eliminate the water collecting near the doorway in a heavy rain. See, when people think about natural disasters, they tend to focus on large events that make the headlines. We knew that if an unnamed storm was causing a problem, then surely a hurricane would be worse. Big storms like Hurricane Ida and many of the named storms that came before it through the years have wreaked havoc on property belonging to real estate investors and property owners. Hurricane Laura, Katrina, Hurricane Rita, Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Andrew. Some of these storms were so famous or infamous that the names were retired and will never be used again. The most recent storm in the area was Hurricane Ida. Now, Ida missed our property by over 250 miles. But the day following the hurricane, we had a wave of storms come through with driving horizontal rain that again caused minor local flooding. The rapidly rising water required our staff to mop up a couple of places where water breached a doorway and entered some rooms through rapidly rising waters. 15 minutes after the storm was over, the floodwaters were gone and it looked like nothing had happened on the outside. It seems that our improvements were not enough. We will need to significantly improve the drainage beyond the changes we already made. This involved taking detailed photos, cataloging the date and time, ensuring that a process of ownership was put in place to address the root cause and not just the symptoms of the issue. And less than a week later, yesterday at 11:01 a.m., we had the same building on the same site struck by lightning. A passing motorist pulled in the driveway of one of our facilities and notified our staff that our building was on fire. 3.5 minutes later, the fire department was on the scene in force and quickly had the situation under control. A minute after the fire department arrived on the scene, I was notified of the issue. The fire and water damage, they're fairly minor, but all of this is the result of having outstanding people on staff who are ready, willing, and able to take charge of the situation and ensure the right things are happening. Each one of these events are an opportunity to examine our systems and make sure we've got a learning process in place. We're asking questions like, why did our fire alarm system fail to notice the fire? Was the fire alarm killed by the lightning? Was it because the roof structure was on fire and there was no sensor up in the attic? Should we be installing lightning rods on all the buildings? The surprising thing is we have some high voltage transmission lines very nearby the property which rise over 100 feet in the air. These transmission lines have extensive lightning arresters and grounding systems. Yet somehow, the lightning chose a pathway to ground through our building instead of striking one of those power lines. All of the electronics in the building that were struck by lightning, they're out of commission. And it seems that the fire alarm system was probably taken out by the lightning strike as well. No doubt we'll have to replace some of the networking equipment, maybe some of the security cameras, and maybe even the entire alarm system. According to a study published by the National Fire Protection Association, fire departments across the U.S. respond to an average of 22,600 fires per year started by lightning. These are concentrated overwhelmingly in 4 months of the year, and 26% of those fires involve man-made structures, most of them homes. Fires started by lightning are responsible for $450 million a year in damage. So these are not isolated incidents. They happen with alarming regularity. Now, nobody was hurt and the damage was fairly minimal, but each one of these events are an opportunity to create a learning culture and a culture of continuous improvement. You could simply take the narrative of here we go again, another problem to solve. But overwhelmingly, we look at each of these as an opportunity to ask, what can we learn? How can we get better? What can we learn? How can we get better? As you think about that, have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.